I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order on this, the 11th day of March, for the Blaine County School District Board of Trustees. And we will go ahead and get started. If you'll please rise and join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. We'll go ahead and get started on our agenda. And I'll first introduce, we do have a quorum here present as of now. Trustee Schwartle, Trustee Graves, Trustee Baker, and myself, Trustee Benyon. And we will have to modify the agenda slightly. We were expecting and hoping to having a fifth trustee sworn in at this meeting. The candidate backed out on Saturday afternoon, I believe, and so we will not be appointing someone. But so people are aware, we did the declaration of vacancy on the 29th of January, and that 90-day window for the zone ends the 29th of April. So we will be opening that back up, and that will be advertised in the paper. And we are looking to have the deadline for applicants towards the 21st of April. And this is a tentative schedule right now. We'll nail it down, and we'll get it publicized through Heather and through the Mountain Express and through our standard forms. But we're looking at the deadline the 21st and the appointment interview the 28th or 29th the next week. So that will be a fairly tight schedule with the superintendent hiring process and the interviews that will be happening, as well as right on that 90-day timeline for the within the zone vacancy. So with that, we will go ahead and turn the time over to Principal Tom Bailey for the Idaho Drug-Free Youth Pledge.
I wanted to make a motion. We do have an agenda addition.
Okay.
In our new business, it's a discussion of a new fee schedule for public records requests.
Okay.
And Adam King would be presenting on that.
Okay, we'll do that, but we'll wait to do that to item 6 on the additions, if that's okay.
Sorry.
No problem. You good?
Thank you. Thank you, board members. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I was asked to come and speak to the Idaho Drug-Free Youth Program, kind of an explanation of what it all entails and its purpose. It's a national program. We have an Idaho chapter, that's versus Idaho Drug-Free Youth. And there are multiple chapters all over the state. The purpose of it is to give youth alternative activities and mentorships to the use of drugs and alcohol. And there are a wide variety of what occurs during those meetings. We have about 50 students at the high school and about 60 students at the middle school who participate in Idaho Drug-Free Youth. When they agree to join the Idaho Drug-Free Youth program, one of the things that they do is they take a pledge, and the pledge merely states that they're not going to do what's already illegal. They're not going to take and partake in drugs and alcohol. They also voluntarily agree to take a drug test, and then to prove that they're drug and alcohol free. And then their name goes into a hat, and every month about 10% of the students get drawn out to redo that test. It's totally random. And again, the students all agree to this voluntarily. And what it does, what it allows them to do, is it really gives them an out when they go somewhere. Kids understand, they all understand nobody wants to get busted, nobody wants to get in trouble. So once they know that they have this potential to be drug tested, it really takes the monkey off their back. They can go to a party, they can associate with their friends, they can be around people that may or may not have chosen that right path. But yet they understand that I'm not going to do this because I'm going to get drug tested. So it really works as an out for those kids. The other part of the program is there's lots of activities that demonstrate that you can have a lot of fun without drugs and alcohol, which in our valley seems to be a different message than what the norm is. What these kids do is they do everything from CrossFit, they do leadership programs, they meet at lunch and have meetings about community service. It's a broad range, and we try and do in the program, the mentors try and give them leadership opportunities, especially when it comes to the community service. One of the things that's very, very popular, I mentioned, was the CrossFit. And we have, through the program, we have obtained so many memberships, and the students can check out that membership for the week and go and participate in the CrossFit. They've done activities where they participated in, they had I'll mess up the name, but it was the Fireman's Activity Challenge that they had last summer, and it was like a CrossFit challenge. And they had 2 teams that participated in that. So the kids were very active in a good sense, as good role models within our community. So that's basically the program. What we open to the community is, what we have offered to all parents is you can voluntarily ask your child's name to be placed in that drug testing pool, and your child doesn't necessarily have to participate in the Idaho Drug for Youth, but if you'd like them to participate in the drug testing program and give them that out as well, what happens when a child is tested, there's only 2 people that know the results of that test. One is the administrator who oversees all the Idaho drug-free programs, both the high school and the middle school, Stephanie Miller. She sees the results and she passes the results along to the parents. It's merely for information for the parents. It has absolutely nothing punitive to it whatsoever. The school doesn't know. Coaches don't know. It's very restrictive in that manner. It's only informational for the parents so that they know where their child sits. We started something like this, remember Steve, way back in the middle school, and it's been, 7, 8 years ago? We offered this same program to middle school parents, and it was very effective back then. When we offered it then, it was offered through St. Luke's Community Health, and you could go there and get any a drug test of your own and administer that. That program is also still available, but it's not through Community Health, it's through the Blaine County Drug Coalition. Any parent can walk in there and get a drug test for their child, and that's free. It's totally up to them. So Idaho Drug for Youth is growing in our valley. The kids respond to it. It's offered them a great alternative, and I think it's just an excellent cause. And again, it's all voluntary. So to see that the numbers are growing consistently, actually they grow every month, what that says to me is that there's a lot of kids in our valley that are looking for that camaraderie with kids of like manner, that they don't have to participate in a drug and alcohol party in order to have a great time and be social with their friends. Any questions?
I appreciate that. The first time I had heard about this program was at the January board meeting, and I became extremely interested in it, both in helping it to gain roots in our schools. But the first question I leaned over and asked Kathy Baker was, is this available for the board? Is it available for the administrators? And after talking with Kathy and checking with the Blaine County Drug Coalition, I'm happy to announce that it is available, and that those administrators, the board members who would like to volunteer for this confidential program, that option's available. And we'd like to invite those who would like to voluntarily do so to get in contact with Mr. Bailey to be able to join the IDFI.
I think that's an excellent role. As a parent or as an adult in the community, to be a role model in that manner is excellent. And I see nothing but value that could come from that. Is if people, prominent people, administrators, coaches that they look up to, any adult, serves in a mentoring role for students to actually step forward and say, hey, I'll show you I can do this too. I think that's an excellent step forward.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Ms. Baker.
Can you tell us where the office is, so if people wanted to come by and get a drug kit or sign the pledge?
The Blaine County Drug Coalition is right in the community campus. It sits right there as you first walk in on the right-hand side past Teresa Gregory's office. And we've been there now. We were there earlier, and then we moved over with St. Luke's. Now we're happy to be back in the community campus. It's a great spot because the students, a lot of high school students, partake with lunch over there, and they come in, drop in all the time. And we actually get, surprisingly enough, we had to increase our secretarial staff there because we have a lot of drop-in people. We have people that go to the, either Blaine County Rec or they're going to CSI or whatever. We get a lot of walk-in parents will come in and ask questions, ask for advice, ask for where can I get some help? Where, what advice do you have on this topic or that topic? And we try to provide a wide range of information on all those topics. The staff keeps up to date on all kinds of movements throughout not only Idaho but throughout the country that range everything from bringing marijuana to our, legalization of marijuana to youth and how to mentor youth. So it gets a lot of traffic, and so that's an excellent place for them to be.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate
very much.
A lot of great information.
Appreciate the follow-up from the January meeting and just explaining the IDFI program and what's available in the pledge and what options exist. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to number 5, the opening statement. And I guess it's my first opportunity to do this as the chairman. And I'd like to thank Terry Smith for that article he wrote in last Friday's paper about the time and the effort that board members have been putting in lately. We have really increased the amount of meetings that we've had over the past 3 or 4 years, this year especially, and it is difficult to juggle work, family, and this. But I don't think I could say it better than what he quoted me there in the article, that sometimes in life there are things worth more than money. And the future of our students is one of those things. That's why we all dedicate so much time and effort into this, is to bring it back for our students, for the kids of our community, to better their futures. So, with that, I will ask if there's any additions, corrections, or modifications. Kathy?
I jumped the gun on that one. Yes, we have a new business, new fee schedule for public records requests. Adam King is going to present on that topic. This is new business, which would put it at the end of the agenda, but consideration of Adam's time, is this possible that we could move it higher in the agenda, or is that doable, not doable?
I think it should be doable. We could probably move it right after public comment if the board is okay with that, to not waste any more of Adam's time and resources.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
We will, do I hear a motion? Actually, Karen, are there any other additions or corrections?
The only other thing is we're going to postpone the Carrie presentation another day.
Okay.
Deletion.
All right. So we'll have that one deletion and the addition after the public comment. Do I hear a motion to accept the amendments as read?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. With that, we will turn the time over to Mr. Blackman for the accolades.
This first letter is addressed to Mr. Peck from John Park regarding Miss Elizabeth Young, math teacher at Carey. I wanted to send you a quick note of appreciation for one of the teachers that is employed at Carey High School. How grateful I am for her. Elizabeth Young is a teacher that I have a great respect and admiration for. My husband and I have had many experiences with Miss Young, as this is our 5th child that has been enrolled in her classes, and my letter is long overdue. My child that is in her class this year is a freshman, and math has not been a strong subject for her. She has worked hard, but has struggled to grasp the concepts of what has been taught in previous years. Ms. Young has done so much for her these past 2 trimesters. Ms. Young opens her classroom to the kids not only with the door, but with the invitation and encouragement to come in and learn. She has spent countless hours with my daughter, her classmates, my other 4 children previously, along with I don't even know how many other hundreds of students that have been a part of her classes. She is such an intelligent woman who understands math incredibly, but more importantly, how to teach it to the students. She spends the extra time needed, way more than is required, hourly as a teacher. She never makes her students feel that they are incapable of getting it, but does everything she can to instill confidence in their abilities. She never makes them feel like they are burdened for taking up too much of her time, or that she has better places to be. I appreciate that she doesn't hand them the answers, but works with them through it. Giving the kids the answers without doing the work does nothing but hurt them in the long run. As I have watched my older children go through their math and science courses in college, yes, science, because it has a lot of math in it, they have been able to do pretty well. I have spoken with my children about this, and they are very quick to give the credit to Ms. Young. I feel and know that she has prepared my children very well for college, and I'm very thankful to her. My hope is that Ms. Young will stay at Cary High School for at least another 3 years after this so that my daughter can continue to learn from her. Again, much thanks. You have a wonderful and amazing teacher in your midst. Sincerely, Sean Park. And I know Ms. Young couldn't be here tonight. She had a family obligation, so Mr. Pack, if you would extend that.
Absolutely. And I wholeheartedly agree with everything in that.
The second one is also addressed to you, Mr. Pack. I wanted to send a letter regarding Cary High School's counselor, Kimberly Hockendoner. What a joy it is to have her here. I have seen some very positive changes in the help that she has been giving to the students and their parents since she has come to Cary. My husband and I have 5 children, and 4 of them have already graduated from Cary. I have to say that when one of them graduated last year, I felt a huge difference in the help and the know-how of what to do to get ready for her graduation. I owe this greatly to Ms. Hockendoner. She kept the students and their parents posted on all the upcoming scholarship opportunities, stayed at the top of their paperwork, their SAT, ACT scores, their college applications, their community work hours, and those many things that need to get done before they get to walk across that stage onto the next phase of their lives. It is a very stressful time for a student and their parents, and she made it so much easier and so much more pleasant. She has a delightful personality that puts people right at ease. She knows what she's doing and how to help. With my other 3 children before that, I scheduled time with the previous counselor trying to get information on how to find scholarships, due dates, and any extra help that I could get, and left not receiving that help. This has not been the case with Ms. Hockendoner. She has been tremendous! Exclamation points. I have seen her also in many other roles at the school and have come to truly appreciate her as a person. You can tell that she's in it for the kids and also for the community. You will find her involved in the projects that are important to the students, sitting with the one who needs the extra help that day and going above and beyond the call of duty of a counselor. I love talking with some of the students. They do also love what she has done with the National Honor Society induction ceremony. She brought such a special touch when she introduced this here, and I'm constantly finding out that it is just who she is. Ms. Hockendoner is a friend to the students, teachers, and parents, and also a fabulous cook as she spends time preparing delicious items to bring to the school just for fun. She is very thoughtful and kind and a tremendous asset to Cary. We are lucky to have her. John Park. Kimberly here tonight? Is she able to make it? No? Okay. Yeah, she's been a nice addition out there, I know that.
It's been a perfect fit. So, All right, with that, we'll move on to the public comment. And has there been any requests filled out?
Yeah, we have two public comments, one from Sandy Scott and Pam Plowman.
All right, we'll proceed in that order.
Good evening, Superintendent Blackman, Board, and fellow citizens. My name is Sandy Scott, and I come to speak to you tonight not as a Blaine County School District teacher for the last 35 years, but as a parent of a child who has come through the Blaine County schools and is currently enrolled in Wood River. And I'm speaking as someone who's worried about my daughter, her friends, my former students, and all the children of the Valley. And I stand here with other parents who share these concerns and feel that some action must be taken. We're here tonight in support of Steve Guthrie's comment made at the regular board meeting in January of 2014. And our objective is to address a concern that we have been living with. And it is a stress-filled matter that involves our most precious commodity of time. I brought with me 24 pencils. Each pencil represents 1 hour in a day in the lives of our kids. And I want us to focus on how our kids are spending their time. For the sake of argument, I'm going to use conservative estimates on the allocation of time. For example, starting with the school day. For most students, that's 7 hours a day. That's not counting 0-hour classes held before the regular school day, which involves many of our very best and most talented. It doesn't count extended day classes for enrichment and support, but 7 hours is the conservative number of hours spent at school. Sleeping. This is like food for the brain. A recent study by the National Sleep Foundation states that teens need about 9.25 hours of sleep each night to function best. For some, 8.5 hours is enough. But the study found that only 15% of students reported sleeping even the 8.5 hours on school nights. Not getting enough sleep has dire consequences. But let's go a bit on the conservative side and give 9 hours for sleep. Can't count. 3, 6, 7, 8. Now let's look at those hours between sleep and school. Most of the students in our valley participate in exercise through sports, dance, martial arts, ski team, other athletic activities. And this is something we not only encourage, but for many, these are the endeavors that are the very passion of this valley. These activities support a healthy living, the development of sportsmanship, and the establishment of a lifelong healthy lifestyle. Conservatively, most of these students spend 2 hours a day pursuing their sport. If we had time for travel to games and tournaments, this would be substantially more, but let's go on the conservative side, 2 hours. A growing kid has got to eat. Let's allocate some time for breakfast and dinner, and most growing teens want a snack. So let's give 1 hour the kids are eating, and hopefully that is sitting down with family and breaking bread. However, let's speak about family time. A study published in the American Academy of Pediatrics showed that time spent with family boosted teens' self-esteem and increased their problem-solving abilities. As our teens become impacted by the physical, emotional, academic, social influences, their families can be the safe haven for them. Even though they are forging their own identities and they need to detach from us a bit at this age emotionally, we are the constants in their lives during these very formative years. So let's give 1 conservative hour to family time. A fair percent of our students commute to school and or wait for buses for transportation in and around our valley. Most kids have to travel to and from all those activities they participate in. And so let's say we lose an hour to traveling up and down the highway and to and from events. Work, chores. A considerable number of our students hold down jobs. These part-time jobs help prepare kids for the real world and provide much-needed money. Other kids do household chores or care for younger siblings. Let's give an hour, although for many it's much more, to work-related activities. Downtime. Exhausted by the relentless demands of our respective jobs and school schedules, parents and teens are often on a collision course for irritation and conflict unless they can remediate their accumulated stress. According to Dr. Carl Pickard in Psychology Today, downtime is one way stress relief is found. Pickard points out that stress from unrelenting demands can jam the relationship between parents and their teens. So texting, talking to their friends, watching TV, gaming, meditating, hobbies, listening to music, just some time to decompress, to unwind, to relax. 1 hour. Now there's a myriad of other activities that we encourage our young people to pursue. Religious life, participating in community service, investigating colleges, keeping up with current events, volunteering, participating in school clubs and organizations, their own personal interests. Let's lump all of those together for another hour. So that's a kid's busy, active, full day, 24 hours. But we haven't talked about homework. All of us standing here tonight, and some others in the audience here, watch our high school kids suffer through 3 to 4 hours of homework every night. 3 to 4 hours, plus more on weekends, and even more over the holidays. Most high school students have 7 classes. If each of their teachers gives just 30 minutes of work a night, that's easily 3.5 hours of homework. And with IB, AP, dual credit, teachers stressing Common Core state standards, SBAC testing, that's a conservative minimum. We've all seen our kids have more than that. And our families, they see our kids feeling stressed out. They're experiencing emotional meltdowns over homework on a pretty regular basis. So in order to finish their homework, maintain the high grades that colleges and families in our district are looking for, our very best and brightest students are sleeping 2 to 3 hours less per night than what they really need. And to attempt to complete all those assignments, our dedicated children are spending little or no time with their family. They're forfeiting downtime. And they're giving up their sports and hobbies, and we're lessening those commitments to programs like Mr. Bailey was speaking of. All these hours are being taken from healthy pursuits in life that lessen stress, to be given to homework. Work that often adds to their stress, lessens their love of learning, and lowers their feelings of worth. Last month, the American Psychological Association's annual survey reported that for the first time, the most stressed segment of the American society is our teenagers. This unhealthy cycle is leading our students to not only hate school, but to hate learning. And as one of my daughter's friends texted her, to hate her life. In December, another classmate texted my daughter, "Everybody is so stressed. Someone at Wood River is going to kill themselves and leave their suicide note on their pile of homework." This is alarming. This level of stress requires immediate attention and action. Now, as a teacher and as a parent, I'm not opposed to homework. I assign my 5th graders homework nearly every day. In a conference I had with Mr. Jerovich last December, he quoted the same rule of thumb guideline that I use. This states the same thing the National PTA recommends, and it falls in line with the guidelines suggested by renowned homework authority and researcher Harris Cooper. 10 minutes per night in the 1st grade, and an additional 10 minutes per grade level thereafter. For example, that would be 20 minutes for 2nd grade, 50 minutes for 5th, 120 minutes for 12th. We want teachers to assign work that's meaningful, efficient, personalized, doable, and inviting. We want our students to be able to freely communicate with their teachers when they struggle with an assignment, knowing they can admit they don't understand a task, and they can do so without grade penalty. We embrace assignments that facilitate student inquiry and promote a love of learning. We want our students to not just be career and college ready. We want them to be ready for life, which isn't just about career and college. So to conclude, our goal tonight is to make you aware of the sometimes overwhelming demands that our students face and the unhealthy levels of stress that many of them experience. This does not dilute concerns that we have for Blaine County School District staff. We're fully aware of the high expectations put on them. It is our intent to be part of the solution that will lessen the workload on students, their families, and the staff, while at the same time preserving the high quality and elevated standard of education and the concern for children's overall well-being that BCSD has historically provided. So we are requesting that the Board of Trustees consider the following 3 actions. 1, revisit Blaine County School District Homework Policy 501, adopted 8/14/1990, nearly 24 years ago. When this policy was adopted, only 15% of American households owned computers. No one had the internet. Hadn't even been invented yet. We didn't have AP, IB, dual credit, or project-based learning. The world has changed a lot, and it's time to evaluate this outdated policy. 2, we asked the board to review NSPRA's communication audit report that was completed in September of 2010. Specifically, those items related to recommendation 5, enhanced communication content and processes to improve the flow of communication with staff members. In addition to the NSPRA recommendations, it may be beneficial to heighten communication efforts at the facility level to include more interdepartmental and cross-grade level communications and interactions. And 3, please continue to support our building administrators. They are your eyes and ears. They know what's best for their own unique learning environments. For example, Mr. Jervich has implemented TRACK, an after-school tutoring program, as well as an advisory class that fosters positive interactions between adults and students. And Mr. Jervich has designated time specifically for staff collaboration. So thank you very much for allowing our group to comment tonight, for considering these recommendations as soon as possible. We appreciate your volunteer efforts and sacrifices that you make as board members and commit to and be on behalf of our students and our staff. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much for your comments. And if you could make sure that Karen has a copy of your remarks.
I did give her a copy as well as one for each of you.
All right.
Did you receive those? Yes. Great. Thank you.
So, thank you. And as a reminder, because they spoke as a group, that's why they were allotted the 10 minutes.
Yes,
So.
thank you. We appreciate that very much.
Okay. Ms. Plowman. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. You can find it.
Thank you. Great, thank you.
My name is Pamela Plowman. I live at 111 East Myrtle Street in Greeley. And first of all, I am really excited to see that presentation. I'm really excited because I totally agree. I'm an early childhood educator with a specialty in brain growth and development, and the importance of sleep alone for brain, resettling what's happened in the day. The brain is more active at night when we sleep than any other time during the day, and it's a really important thing to protect. So, and also stress keeps the brain from, it makes your fight or flight mechanism keep most of your activity down below your wise neocortex. So any things that are stressful work against a child's success in school. So I'm way for, and I think the homework thing, there are schools now in the States that have taken homework away, and I like to bring studies, but I don't have it with me, but they've noticed increase in test results with 0 homework, even in high school. So I really encourage you to look into that, because it's a low-hanging fruit for increased, productivity for the kids and happiness. So anyway, I'm here to talk about the drug testing. I was here last month and heard the comments about drug testing, and I thought, wow, that's kind of radical, but that'd be effective, So I didn't think much more about it, but I got online to take a look at it. I thought it was really novel, but there's actually 20% of schools in the United States that are doing it. And so they've been doing studies on it, and this is what I've given you. This isn't the exact study. The study was published in the Journal of Studies on Alcohol and Drugs. But this is a Time magazine article about that study, and they found that there was no correlation with reduced use of drugs or alcohol with required testing, none at all. But they did find that there was increased, if a student felt positive about their school or positive about their relationships with their teachers, they found 20% less likely to report trying marijuana and 15% less likely to smoke cigarettes. There was no change in alcohol consumption. So I just, when we make changes in policy, I think it should be research-based. And I'd like you to, take a look at the research, because I looked for maybe 45 minutes, and it was all this. This is just the compilation of the most prestigious report. So I think that it may not be a useful thing. It costs money, all that kind of stuff. And the Drug Coalition can provide it on their own without being in the school. So that's my suggestion, is that I think it may not be a school appropriate for our funds for school, because lack of effectiveness. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Karen, has there been any others that have been submitted?
We received a fax just a few minutes ago.
No, I believe our policy is that they have to be here to be able to present that.
Great. Thank you.
So.
Nothing else.
All right. With that, we will go ahead and move on to the fee schedule and have our... Yes, please. If our District Attorney, Adam King.
Hi, Commissioners, Superintendent.
Commissioners.
This issue came up. It was brought to my attention. There was recently a public records request, and basically, I'm here to encourage you to adopt a fee schedule. I was actually a little surprised you didn't have one. There may have been one years ago, and it might have just faded away somewhere. The legislature grants the right to inspect public records to the public. Public records are exceedingly broadly defined as any record relating to the public's business, prepared, owned, used, or retained by the district. So, as you can imagine, the district generates a phenomenal amount of public records every day. These includes paper records, computerized records, software, photographs, emails, drawings, maps. Everything generated in the school district just about is a public record. It should be stressed that a member of the public can request records that exist, but under the Public Records Act, which the Attorney General has a great manual on the Attorney General's website, there's no obligation for the district to create things. So if I asked for a list of teachers at Wood River High School, and that list exists as a record, I have the right to that list. If I asked for a list of all the teachers whose first names is Mary, the district has no right to start compiling new information. It's basically for public records that are existing. Often misunderstood is the public records law isn't a vehicle for a question and answer session. It's basically to say, I would like these certain records that exist. Once again, the district doesn't have to create information. It's absolutely vital to have the correct people reviewing records. Because to balance this absolute right to request records, there are well over 100 exemptions of records that cannot be produced concerning student privacy, employee privacy, attorney-client privilege, trade secrets, certain real estate records, etc. Are exempt from production. So for that reason, it's vital to have the correct people reviewing the records. once again, protected with the district, it's usually protected student information, protected employee information, and attorney-client privilege documents. Once again, there's over 100 exceptions. Last, and then to balance the public's absolute right to request records with the fact that a records request can seek many thousands of records, the governmental agency can establish a fee schedule for copies and for labor. The first 100 copies and the first 2 hours of employee labor are free. And just by way of example, I could walk in tomorrow and request all documents related to the construction of Wood River High School. That's a phenomenal amount of paper. And although I have the right to do that, the district has a right to say, we're not going to be, we can't devote 60 hours of staff time to finding every single document related to Wood River High School. So Mike has prepared a proposed fee schedule. I would encourage you to adopt that. Once again, copies are very simple because once you've figured out what it is, it's easy to say, here's the number of copies we make, the first 100 are free. Labor time is a little more subtle. The code requires labor to be charged to the lowest paid capable person. But for example, if I did a request tomorrow for all communications related to McKinstry, once again, we'd be looking at thousands upon thousands of emails, many of which are privileged, some of which are former employees, and it would take an IT person to go through and find those emails. Once again, I have an absolute right to that, but to balance that is the district has the right to have the right staff person do the work and to charge a fee for that. The other thing is, and this happens at Sun Valley, we've had a lot of requests where when people are asking for many emails and documents, you have to go through and make sure you're not giving anything away that's privileged. In the example of requesting all communications concerning McKinstry, there'd be many hundreds of documents and emails which would be privileged from the attorneys who represented the district. So consequently, when a large volume request is received, the first thing to do is figure out what district staff is necessary and estimate the time that's needed. The district can then request that the requester prepay the estimated amount for labor and copies. So once again, it's my strong suggestion to create a fee schedule. A very simple one-sentence request could result in hundreds and hundreds of hours of staff time. In the city of Sun Valley, we've actually had to hire temps before because we couldn't, it's a very small entity, we couldn't take the staff away. There could be a request, once again, where it would involve such an amount of staff that you'd have to hire hire a temp. So with that, Mike has created a schedule. I've looked over it. It seems pretty reasonable. And Lori's not here. She's probably dealt with the majority of public records requests before. But it's really important to have a fee schedule in place because, once again, there's an absolute right to ask for the documents. The district has the duty to respond, but to balance that, the district should not be burdening the taxpayers with, super voluminous requests. So, with that, any questions on fees or documents?
I have one question.
Yeah.
Under the labor rates divided by 1,968 or 2080 hours, I know 2080 is a standard 40-hour week over a 52-week year. What is the 1,968 and why are there two different numbers, Mike?
Go ahead.
There's two different administrative salaries. One's based on a 246-day and one's based on a 260-day.
Okay, so only the district administrator has either of those because it's only listed for that one position?
Yes.
And would there ever be somebody tasked with doing work that would be on like a 9-month schedule that we would need to have that in there? Or do you foresee that being an issue? Or
It's probably unusual.
Unusual,
For
okay.
example, if, let's say, the records request had to do with a lot of records that a teacher had, typically an administrator would go talk to that teacher and say, can I see those files, and then go through that. So I think it's fair to say that it's usually going to be a full-time, year-round person. Certainly,
that would be doing the
once
work.
again, if we had a lower-paid person, we can always say, hey, we can save money all around here and do it that way.
Okay.
So. Ms. Reyes?
So under the labor rates, you've got different examples of people that may be doing this work, and you've got assistant or associate. So it wouldn't matter who that was, we would just take their current salary and divide that.
Well, we
Would Mike be considered assistant or associate because he gets many
We're,
requests as financial
the
manager?
district is obliged to use the lowest paid person that's capable of finding those records. Okay, so in my example, if it was all correspondence related to the McKinstry lawsuit, you definitely need an IT person because they'd be looking at thousands of emails, right? So, but you could use the lowest paid IT person that was capable of getting into the email system and finding all those and searching for the word McKinstry or whatever else.
Okay.
But
So-
sometimes it would be Mike, potentially.
Possibly so, yeah. If it were financial records that
Mhm.
Mike had access to, it could be Mike. But
Okay.
once again, the first 2 hours are free,
Right.
and the first 100 copies are free. And the legislature in the code also, you can't submit 20 different requests and get 40 free hours. So they thought of that.
Oh, okay.
So basically, if I'm understanding this correctly, it's not to discourage requests. It's basically to cover the taxpayer's base as far as making sure
Correct.
they're not covering the request of an individual for an enormous amount of information.
Exactly. And there actually are 3 exemptions to paying the fees. If the request is likely to contribute significantly to the public's understanding of the operations or activities of the government, it is not primarily in the individual interest of the requester, including the requester's interest in litigation, which the requester is or may likely become a party, or will not occur if fees are charged because the requester has insufficient financial resources to pay such fees. But that's got to be an individual showing each time. So,
Okay.
and there's been a lot of cases on this. In fact, Terry can tell us that almost all of the public records litigation in Idaho is newspapers versus some government agency. There hasn't been any litigation on those 3 exceptions, so that would kind of be on a case-by-case basis.
Okay.
Two quick questions. One is, it sounds like this is very common. You have represented other entities in the valley.
I'm
Is
quite
this
surprised we don't have a fee
Okay.
schedule in place, yeah,
Okay.
with our size.
And then the second question being, you talked about attorney-client privilege. There would probably be some cases where even if a clerk compiled information, that information would then have to probably go to our attorney, that they would then review and have to redact anything that would,
That's
so there would be
absolutely
like potential double costs involved.
Well, I
just to
wouldn't
kind
say
of
double
explain.
costs, there'd be different costs.
Or
And
different
once
costs
again,
for
it's
different
less-
reasons.
Right, if the total of the labor is less than 2 hours, it's free. I
Mhm.
mean, a small file is easy to go through.
Mhm.
But
Okay.
if it's boxes and boxes of information, and the thing is, like I say, it's really easy. I could do a public request, a records request tomorrow, all emails concerning McKinstry. I mean, can you imagine how many emails that is? 10,000 emails maybe. And so it really depends. You have to
Actually,
look at the
no.
request, construe it, and then figure out what it's going to take to do that. Because once
Yeah.
again, there is a right to request it, but the district has the right not to be burdened financially by the request.
Okay.
So,
Is there any further questions from the board?
okay.
All right.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Do I hear a recommendation, or do I hear a motion to accept the recommendation to adopt the fee and labor schedule for public requests?
I have a question first.
Okay.
I have a question for Superintendent Blackman. If we are adopting this as a fee schedule, is there something that we need to put into actual policy that would relate to this? Like a formal policy, do you feel, in your experience? Or can we just adopt this as a fee schedule separately? Okay,
I
yep,
asked that same question to Mr. King, and he said it should not be involved in the policy
okay,
manual. It should only be a board policy that resides with the board.
okay. So it's not an official school district policy, it's a board fee schedule.
I would see that more as a procedure.
Procedure, okay,
Because it's very specific on what you're going to do based on certain things. It's not really a philosophical, statement of we believe this and therefore we're going to do this. It's more, this
Okay.
is our schedule.
So, Because this was, just added as an amendment, I guess, or a modification to our agenda, I would rather we postpone our vote. We will be meeting, I believe, later this week.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow and next week,
20th.
the
Yeah.
20th.
Mhm.
That if we could put this on that week's agenda, just so we could take a look at this? Is there any reason to vote on this tonight? I'd like to
I'm not aware
just
that
look
there's
at this
any
because I just
pressing
saw this for
issue.
the first time tonight.
I'm not aware that there's any pressing issue. Mike, are you comfortable with us postponing this till the 20th and adding that to that agenda?
Yeah, I'm fine.
I mean, we could do it tomorrow if there was a reason why we needed to do that time. Good with that too.
My only question would be, in the event that a records request came in tomorrow, that would fall under that 1,000 hours or 100 hours, would we be able to apply a fee schedule to it without having it already approved? Or would we have to do it for free? That would be a concern that I might have. One option would be to adopt it as is, and we can revise it potentially. And that would be one possibility, if that would be an issue for coverage.
I think you're covered under the code. No? Right?
Yes. No, that's why Adam was requesting that to be done today.
You said anything after 2 hours in the code. After 2 hours is free, and after that, the district could charge.
But we have no fee schedule.
That's the code.
And since we did not have the fee schedule in place, his concern was it was not.
It would not be
covered
protected.
by state statute.
I guess I'd like to see how everybody else feels.
Liz?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if we do it as is and then revisit it, we're covered both ways.
Because we can always revise it in a week, but this would cover us in the interim, and then we can make any changes if we see. We can revisit it next week. That would be my recommendation.
Well then, do I hear a motion to adopt as is the current fee and labor schedule for public records requests as of now, with the assumption that we will be revisiting it possibly on the 20th on the agenda?
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And if you could make a note to put that on the 20th, I would appreciate it. Thanks, Karen. All right, we will go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. And in consent agenda, we have the consideration of minutes for the regular February meeting, February 11th, 2014, special meeting of the board, February 14th, 2014, special meeting budget review presentation, February 20th, 2014, acceptance of monthly financial report, consideration of 6-week maternity leave request for a certified employee, consideration of a 12-week family leave for 1 certified and 1 classified staff member, consideration of a 1-year sabbatical leave of absence request, Scott Chafin for the Wood River Middle School teacher, consideration of 1-year sabbatical leave of absence request, Amanda, I'm probably going to butcher the last name, Ewig, Haley Elementary, and consideration of personnel exiting and entering. And Karen, do you have those?
I do. Classified staff exiting, Jesse Nissen, Library Media Parapro at Haley, and recommending for hire Amanda LaChance, Administrative Assistant, Student Services Department here at the district office. Classified coaching staff, Rhett Jones, Assistant Varsity Track Coach at Wood River High School. Jeannie Bradshaw, Assistant Varsity Track Coach at Wood River High School. And Chelsea Cutler, Assistant Varsity Tennis Coach at Wood River High School. Certified staff exiting, Valerie Thor, a science teacher, 8th grade at the middle school. And Bing Parkinson, social studies teacher at Silver Creek High School.
All right. Thank you very much. Before I proceed, I'd like to thank you, Karen, for filling in for our board clerk while she's out of town with family issues. So thank you very much for your assistance. Do I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda as read?
I'll make that motion.
And second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Or excuse me, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? consent agenda has been accepted. All right, we will now move on to the guest presentation by the Center's Education Department. I'd like to welcome them, and if they would, please introduce yourselves.
Thank you. Hi. You guys aren't all
Actually.
Thanks so much, Board of Trustees members, for having us here and for inviting us. My name is Kristen Poole, and I am the Artistic Director at the Sun Valley Center for the Arts. And I'm here with my colleagues, Caitlin Ziegler, who is our new Director of Education and Humanities, and Denise Simone, who is a core company artist from Company of Fools. I think most of you guys know, or I hope you know, that last year the Sun Valley Center for the Arts and Company of Fools joined forces. We are now one organization. And the reason for that was lots, but the primary driving reason was that both of us come from the same philosophical point of view. And one of those common philosophies is that we're committed as educators to spend as much time as we can with Plain County school kids, providing them with exposure to really fine arts and humanities opportunities. So we thank you for that trust that you've placed in us and for allowing us into your classrooms and your kids into our galleries and our theater space.
So what we would like to share with you tonight is what we are currently doing in the schools with our students and our teachers. And I'd like to kind of back up, and some of you may have heard this story, but when Company of Fools started in 1997 with our relationship with Blaine County School District, I always say, I wish it had happened in an auspicious way. It didn't. It was very humble. We arrived and we proposed to then Superintendent Dr. Lewis if we could bring in our in-school program, Stages of Wonder. And he looked at us and said, yes, of course. I just had a cancellation from the Zula Children's Theater. You're in. And that began our 17-year history with Blaine County School District.
So Dr. Lewis's ambiguous endorsement, I think, was heartfelt in the sense that he recognized at that time, as all you do, that interface, giving kids an opportunity to dig deeply into arts and humanities programs is something that makes us all better and richer. And for 16 years, the Sun Valley Center for the Arts has been honored to be able to give away a huge amount of money to Blaine County students and educators. As many of you know, the Center's wine auction is an annual fundraiser that we do every year, where people from this community dig deeply into their pockets and give us a lot of money so that we can turn around and give it to your teachers and to your students. And over the last 16 years, we've given over $600,000 away to more than 400 students and educators. And they do everything from go to band camp to go to Juilliard. Some of these experiences are very short and intense, and some of them are long. And they are transformational for many, many students. So we're really lucky to be able to do that for our students in this community. Secondarily, one of the other places where we, if you want to advance it, John, the other places where we're honored to be in the schools is every year we have the chance to come into the classrooms and sometimes into the auditoriums in the schools and bring visiting artists, visiting musicians, visiting writers, visiting dancers, visiting theater people to perform for our kids and to present what they do as arts professionals for our kids. This year, because of a grant from Alan and Wendy Pesky, we were able to bring in a dance group called Okaija. Maybe some of your kids came home and talked about these funny guys in funny costumes who were drumming, and they are a dance group that came in and performed for the kids and facilitated not just conversations and joy about this experience, but facilitated conversations about how drums work in different cultures and how costuming works in different cultures. So these are the guys, and they were a big hit in the elementary schools and in the Wood River Middle School.
And then on to Stages of Wonder. And as some of you may know, Stages of Wonder is the theater curriculum for the elementary schools as stated in the 2008 Debate, Speech, and Theater Curriculum. And this March, we are back in the schools for our 17th year. Stages of Wonder, as I said, is an in-school program for grades 1 through 5, facilitated by 2 teachers, Company of Fools teachers, per classroom. It provides a safe and equal environment for all children that take this program. And for some of our children, it's their first and only contact with the theatrical arts that they have. And I'm really proud to say we have gone through 3 graduating classes. We also, going on to student, there's some more stages of wonder. And going on to our student matinees. So we'd like to build a bridge from the classroom onto the stage. And since 1999, we have been entertaining grades K through 12 with student matinees. And many of our elementary school children that come into the Liberty to see a student matinee will whisper to each other that they're coming to the home of the Magic Hat, which is one of our key exercises we do in Stages of Wonder. And also, I really am privileged and honored to share with you that we're able to reduce the student price from $10 to $5 and to provide unlimited free student matinee tickets because of the generosity of so many organizations and individuals in our community, like Haley Rotary and the Papoose Club. To date, we've offered 118 student matinees to over 23,000 students. And this year alone, we had 145 high school students come to see David Lindsay Bear's Good People, which dealt with poverty and class structure. And over 1,250 elementary and middle school students got to see the magical adventures of Shipwreck. And I wanted to share a review by one of our elementary school students. I personally think that that was the most absolutely the best play ever. It was the best play ever in the whole, H-O-L-E, world. It was the best because it looked so real.
Thanks, Denise. I really love hearing all of the feedback we get back from students, thank you notes from students and teachers. It's really wonderful. And we understand that getting students and teachers out of the classroom and into either the theater or into our gallery spaces isn't really an easy task. We understand that teachers give these field trips a lot of consideration, and so we want to make sure that those experiences are really valuable for the students and for the teachers. So the center's been offering tours of our exhibitions to Blaine County's schools for about 15 years now. We work with the teachers to specifically address the curriculum on our guided tour, and then we follow up with an activity that happens in our classroom. We're really excited to see, we're seeing a lot of kids coming through the exhibitions. This year alone we've seen over 900, and I only anticipate that will grow with the next few months. It's really incredibly gratifying to see these students come in and have so much ownership, either over the Liberty, seeing a student matinee, or in the gallery space. They really are comfortable there, and they really love being there. And it's even more wonderful when they come back and they bring their parents, they bring their family members, and they want to teach them what they've learned in our spaces. So that's really exciting for us. Because of all the success that we've had with our school programs, last year we were able to hire a new education staff member. So Danica Robrin, some of you may have seen her out and about. She was hired full-time, and she assists with all of our school programs, all of our school program initiatives. So that's guided tours, that's teen workshops, and family days as well. And with her presence and with the support of a contribution from Alan and Wendy Pesky, we've been able to develop some of our school initiatives a little bit further. So not only is it we offer a tour of the gallery space or an experience in theater, we now also can go into the classroom. We realize that our time with students is limited in the gallery space, so it's really exciting to be invited back into their classroom to take the discussion a little bit further. We also are really thrilled to share that our classroom enrichment project, which is brand new this year, in its pilot year, it's proving to be very successful, and that's a project where we get to go into the classroom and work with the teacher one-on-one with curriculum that's already in place, that they already have set, and then we get to enhance it with looking at the subject through a different perspective, perhaps through a visual art perspective, or perhaps through performing arts. So you may have seen it in the high school. We have a couple of installations that some seniors did in the AP Statistics class with Dr. Marcia Grabo, and we got to look at just raw data, and they collected data, they analyzed it, and then we produced a visual installation of that data for their peers. And lastly, the center's lecture program, which was initially designed to explore ideas for curious adult learners, has gained a lot of attention for some of our students. Because of some funding from two families in the Valley, we were able to offer free tickets to James Foster, who had started this new program, a humanities club, at the high school. And so we've really seen an increase in students coming to our lectures, and that's a really exciting thing for us to see as well.
Well, truly our most important partnerships, of course, are with our teachers like Mr. Foster and others. that use the center and Company of Fools to fuel their creative juices. One of the things we do is for every show that Company of Fools opens, we have a designated educator night. And that's where currently employed educators and school administrators can get, can get 2 tickets for $10 each as opposed to that $35 ticket price. And more and more of our teachers are taking advantage of this. Last year we had 150 educators who took advantage of this offering.
And speaking of that important partnership with teachers, we have a committee, an education advisory committee who we work with throughout the school year. We meet with them 4 times a year to advise us on some of the programs that we have upcoming, and we find out what's going on in the classroom, and that's really why we're so successful with the schools here, is because we have that partnership with teachers.
And before we end, I do want to take a moment. We have Wendy and Alan Pesky here with us this evening, and I just want to say thank you. Of living and working in the Valley for 17 years and serving on the Idaho Commission for 6 years as a commissioner. And I got to say, we put such a value on the arts in our school district, and I think it just is so reflective of the community we live in and where we place our values. So on behalf of everyone at the center and our amazing donors who so generously give of themselves and their vision, we want to thank you for this opportunity to present in front of you, and we look forward to continuing the dialogue with you and, of course, with your students and teachers. So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Right.
Thank you.
Is there any questions? Is there any questions from the board?
I just want to say how much you do for the community is just, our little theater is a jewel. Everything about it makes this community for our family. Yeah.
We
I just
appreciate
wanted
it.
to point out that Danica Rogran, who is our new employee who's serving exclusively the school district, is a product of the Blaine County school system. And she is a powerhouse and has turned on so many kids in the school district. It's easy to turn on little kids, but she has got the high school students jazzed. And if you haven't had time to go by the high school and see these 2 installations that she did with Marcia Clay Rose class, do it. It's really, really exciting what's going on. So thank you so much. It's a huge level of trust that you place in us, and we honor that trust. So
Thank you very much. We appreciate our partnership. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Blackman, I'll turn the time over to you for the state of the district.
Before I get started, I would also like to really thank Alan and Wendy for all that you do for education. I know that I've had the privilege of meeting you before and actually having a chat with you about your passion in education and unlocking education for all students, especially those who struggle in some areas. So again, thank you so much for all that you do for all our kids. I don't have a lot to report. I will stick to, since we're in Blaine County, the 5B. Be brief, brother, be brief. And I would just like to state that in our conversations in Admin Council, we've been talking a lot about unlocking human potential and capacity and motivation and taking fear out of the structure so that we can get to that human capacity, that creativity, that inquiry, and building that not only in our students, but in our teachers and our leadership team as well. And we've had some very in-depth, very amazing discussions around that. This week, on Friday, I'm taking a small group, due to budget constraints, to a very key group to an annual conference, the Scd Conference, where Daniel Pink and Ken Robinson will be the 2 keynote speakers. Both those guys have done extensive work in motivation and unlocking that motivation for folks. And so there's a book called Drive that I'm reading right now by Daniel Pink, and it's really about getting away from carrot and stick motivation. And what's interesting is our structure is based around that. So when you look at everything from star ratings to grading systems to compliance issues handed down by the feds and the state legislators, it's all around that that stick motivation. If you don't meet this compliance issue, then we will hurt you somehow. We will try and discredit you or make you look bad. And I really believe, and I think as a leadership team, we believe that the way we're going to blow the doors off that box and become something truly great is to stop shooting for the compliance measure and get beyond it and look greater and bigger and past it. And so we're looking at those things and how we tear the walls off the box, which is scary, by the way, because our whole system's based in compliance. How do you get outside of that? How do you step outside of that? Create that safety zone where fearless learning takes place. A couple of analogies that I've used with admin council are, rather than handing kids those fish, right? Give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach him how to fish, right? Feed him for a lifetime. So we're talking about how do we get to that focus of teaching kids to fish and feeding themselves. And there's a lot of different ways to fish, a lot of different ways to approach it. But the focus is the same. Whether you're gill netting, whether you're fly fishing, whether you're spear fishing, there's a lot of different ways to get it done, but the focus is the same, and we're working on that focus. Also, I had another analogy in my head, and now I'm trying to remember it. But it was clear a second ago. So, but that's what we're really motivated to do, and this conference, I think, will help us move that direction and start looking at how do we, I know what it was, WD-40. You all know why WD-40 is called WD-40?
Failed 39 times.
It's called Water Displacement Number 40, developed by NASA, which means it was the 40th try that they got it right. So that means there were 39 failures. And what I worry about is when I watch my son, who's a freshman, is he allowed to fail 39 times before he gets that perfect or that answer, and working collaboratively. And one thing I've read from Google that what they're looking for in their employees, although there are some skill levels that they look for in about 50% of their placement, the number one thing they're looking for is people that can learn and relearn, because that's going to change very quickly. So even though they know it, everything they know is going to change very fast in the tech world. So they need people who can learn and relearn and not be afraid of that. And so that's what we need to be able to take out for our students and for our teachers. We need to cut that potential loose and not be afraid of that. And that's how I think we're going to blow the doors off this thing and become something truly great.
What's the name of the conference? You said the ASCD?
It's the ASCD Conference, which is the Association of School Curriculum Development. And it is in LA. We're leaving Friday. And the two keynote speakers are Sir Ken Robinson, and you can look these guys up on TED Talks, and Daniel Pink. They're both authors of books. Ken Robinson's book is The Element, How Finding Your Passion Changes Everything. Daniel Pink's book is Drive. They both have a couple books. Those are the two big ones that I've read. And so we're moving. That's it.
Any other questions from the board? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, moves on to the chair report. And for the superintendent search update, we're still in the process of going through Ray & Associates. They have the application open right now. I believe it closes towards the end of this month. I want to say the 26th, but that might not be exact. I know it's towards the end of this month. And we have had a number of candidates apply already, and until that closes, we won't know for sure the total number of candidates and where they're all located from. We will be discussing as a board how the interview process and the selection process is going to be for those candidates. And please pay attention to Facebook, to the weekly updates, to the newspaper, to the Mountain Express, and we will keep you posted on those availabilities in those meetings so that the public and staff will have an opportunity to interact and meet those superintendent candidates. So please pay attention and to those mediums. As far as announcements, we have a variety of meetings coming up. We have the budget presentation tomorrow. On department budgets, we have a budget review presentation on the 20th of March, school and athletic budgets. Let's see, there is not a scheduled work session in March due to everything else going on. Would like to remind everybody of spring break. I know the board is looking forward to a break for a week. So that will be the March 24th through the 28th. We will, shortly after coming back from that, have another budget review presentation on the 1st of April from 12 to 1:30 p.m., estimating revenues. The NSBA conference, which I believe Trustee Baker, Superintendent Blackman, and our board clerk.
John's not going.
Oh, that's right. You're going to Anaheim with your son for the. Nice. So I believe Ms. Kaufman and Ms. Baker will be going to represent us at the National School Board's annual conference, and hopefully we'll be bringing back some information how we can become a more effective board and board members. And then our regular board meeting is on the 15th of April at 6 p.m. And I'd just like to really put an emphasis on these budget meetings. Back in, I believe it was December, we created the Financial Advisory Committee and asked people who are interested in that committee to be able to come to those budget meetings to learn about our budget, learn about our district, and we're trying to break the budget down into more manageable chunks so it's a little more easily understood. We'd really like to invite the public to these meetings. They're more informal, where the board, the public can ask questions and get questions answered. So we would really like to extend that invitation and invite people to take advantage of that opportunity. So, and with that, we'll move on to the board highlights, and I have a couple for one of them in the audience, but I'll open it up to the rest of the board in the meantime.
I have a highlight to share. 2 weeks ago, I attended the Day on the Hill with Lori Kaufman and Superintendent Blackman. This is an opportunity for us to meet with our state legislators to find out what's going on with the bills that are being passed related to education. It was a great opportunity. We enjoyed meeting with our senators and representatives and discussing various issues, as well as speaking with some of the superintendents from other districts that face similar issues to us. And John, did you want to say anything about that?
Nope. I mean,
It was positive.
Yeah, it was fairly quiet this year.
Yeah, it was very quiet.
The big one was one of the big ones.
Guns on campus.
Is here at home was the gun bill, of course, and but we'll be making a statement with CSI, but we're talking with some of the senators. It sounds like the federal Safe and Gun-Free Schools Act will, since it's our property, we have classes on that campus. It's still our campus. It's still our property.
So it will supersede,
All right.
is the expectation. That's
All right.
all
Well,
I
I
have.
appreciate that.
You want to say something? The one thing that impressed me in the last month or so was, and one of the best meetings I ever attended in this room, was the PYP DP meeting. And Angie, you're here to hear this. It was one of the most enlightening and thoughtful and deliberative meetings about education that I think the district has ever jammed into an hour and a half. And I just appreciate the quality of the information that you allowed us to hear and the amount of work that went into that and the thoughtfulness. Yeah.
Did you want to clarify what that acronym stands for?
Sure. That's a good point. So International Baccalaureate, the district was considering, we now are accredited for the middle years program, which is grades 6 through 10. The diploma program was 11 and 12, and the primary years program is K through 5. And so the district had sent a team of people to go and investigate in both New Orleans and in nearby in Boise, various schools that had these programs, and come back, and they gave a really nice list of pluses and minuses. their own personal impressions, how it would fit specifically with our district. And they came up, I thought, with wonderful recommendations, and it was on an important educational topic that could, you know, be the future of our district, and I think that we came to really good conclusions with the work of the committee.
Excellent. Well, I'd like to throw in that both Charlie Gifford and Andrew Graves for the robotics championship in the state, as well as National Merit Scholars. So congratulations.
Finalists.
I don't think you wanted a toot-your-own son story, but I'll do it for you. And then for one of our members in the audience there, one of my good buddies from the Dietrich School District, the chairman down there, their basketball team beat Cary rather handily twice during the season, but we finally got them at state for the consolation championship. So I'd like to rub that in as I can. So, all right. And with that, I will move on to continuing business with the first item, consideration of school district funded sponsorship of Wood River Middle School baseball and softball programs. And I will go ahead and open that up to the board for discussion.
We were just going to hear from a member of the public.
We've had a few fairly extensive presentations in the past about it, and I'll just open it up for time for discussion.
So we're deciding whether to move it forward tonight. Is that the
Or just discuss what we want to do in general.
Well, I think that it's a proven program, and I think it's exactly what we want to be doing. I think that people have put in a lot of volunteer time to this point to get it up and running, and I think it's wonderful.
I also think it's a wonderful program, and I'm so glad. I had to prepare a few notes. I'm forgetting things, so that's why I'm looking down. And it's that it was such a successful season last year. I think it's great that additional baseball and softball facilities were created on the school grounds, so it made it more accessible to students to go right after school to practice, and that we were also able to support the league with some travel expenses to and from the game, which I think probably helped a lot. And having over 100 kids is terrific. I think there were over 50 in the softball and over 60 in the baseball. So I think it's a terrific program. I do have, I guess, a couple of concerns. One is I sort of see this as a budget item. By itself, it does not seem like it's a huge amount of money that you're, I guess, requesting to support this program in proportion to our entire budget. But I do feel that we need to be prepared as board members to think about other teams and club sports that have similar requests in our valley. We have other sports such as swimming and lacrosse and hockey and skiing, which are also great activities for our kids and support a lot of kids in our valley. So I think that we really need to think about that, because this budget could double or triple in the upcoming years, which I think is something we have to think about, especially concerning we had a budget workshop last week with many requests for positions for upcoming years and how to spend money. So I guess that's one concern. And the other concern is that there aren't any other school-sponsored middle school teams in the state.
They don't have a league.
Right.
That's a school-sponsored league.
A school-sponsored league that it's continuing to be in the big youth
Club
league.
sport.
So.
Okay. I would agree with both what Liz and Catherine has said. I did notice, and I think this would be maybe helpful, first of all, we have not had any recommendations from our own administration regarding this issue. We've had these guest presentations, but this is not something that's gone through our admin council or through our superintendent as far as making a recommendation to the board. And next week, we also are meeting on school and athletic budgets. And I do agree that this is a budgetary issue that needs to be looked at through the lens of the greater issue, not just in baseball and softball, but the other sports that you indicated. So one possibility that the board could do as far as a measure moving forward would be to task our administration with looking at this and making a recommendation similar to like what we received so well put together that you mentioned, Liz, with the IB program, the DPPYP, in looking at this issue. If we feel it's something that's very important, that we could task them with taking into consideration the bigger picture as well as the financial impact in budget. So that would be kind of where I sit with it right now.
One of my concerns too is parallel to Trustee Gray's as far as if Blaine County adopts the program, there's nothing saying that the other districts in the Magic Valley are going to be doing that. And so as we move forward, I would like a concrete or more of a concrete that we're waiting to see what Blaine County does. Not necessarily just that, but to try and get some committals from the other district boards that yes, this is something that's going to be moved forward into a funded league, not as a Babe Ruth organization. So, but no, I agree that I think we should revisit it and talk about it with the school and athletic budgets on March 20th.
If that's enough time.
Is that be doable?
That'd be doable, which is next week, next Thursday.
So.
Let me just clarify, are you also asking for administration recommendations by that, or do we just discuss amongst ourselves about budgets or
I think
potential of other budgets for other...
Like lacrosse and the other things.
Correct.
Yeah. I would like to see it through the lens of the budgets, but at that time I would also like to see or hear from admin whether or not or their recommendation on that program.
What do you think?
No.
So.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the more information, the better.
So.
Yeah, I think so too. I want to make sure that this doesn't end up coming back and coming back and coming
Agreed.
back, because I can see that happening, and
Agreed.
I think
we don't want to drag it out any longer than we have to.
Exactly. And the other thing is, this is a budget item, but it's not hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. It's an amount that we should be able to move forward with a sense of urgency, given the right information. And I agree with everybody.
Yeah.
If it's March 20th, that's a reasonable amount of time. But
it's a 12,000 to 15,000 annual increase to the budget.
Right.
I think the biggest thing to consider is that it's not just a 12 to 15 potentially, because you're opening in a door that if you're inviting in baseball and softball, well, now lacrosse, hockey, ski, the other sports are going to say, we want funding too.
I
and
hope
that's
that
where,
happens in a way. I mean, I would like,
But we need to just look at that bigger impact.
Yeah.
If you are opening that window.
On the holistically.
That would be the discussion, is not at the $10,000, $12,000 mark, but at the
100,000 potential.
$100,000.
Right. Although, I think that there's I think that there's a balance here. We've had this come up and up and up, so
Right.
I'd like to, I'd like to get to some resolution, and then to not let the whole thing stop it. So.
All right. Well,
I would agree with you, Liz, that it would be something that we don't want to have go on. And just because we're considering it in the window of the other sports that our students are doing does not mean that they all have to be a yes.
Right.
You can
Exactly.
draw the line somewhere. And I think that's part of that discussion that we need to come forward. Yes?
Just one thing for consideration is
Mhm.
keep in mind that those sports are sanctioned sports
Mhm.
at the high school level.
All of them, or just the softball and baseball?
Baseball and
Yeah.
softball.
Are actually sanctioned high school sports,
Mhm.
where the other ones that you're talking about are not.
Yep.
So right now, lacrosse, swimming, hockey are not sanctioned by the Idaho Athletic Association at the high school level, but baseball and softball are.
That would be really good information in the recommendations that you give to us next week to add in.
Are you tasking me again?
Yeah, I think we are tasking you, John. So are we officially tasking that? Are we all in agreement that we're officially tasking that for a report next week?
Sounds good.
Administrators as well. I think that
Yeah.
would be a good
Yeah.
recommendation coming from.
Yeah. Okay.
At this point, we're already providing some resources to the teams. We have a partnership with the teams in place.
Such as?
Locker rooms, transportation, field maintenance,
Mhm.
those types of things. So we're already contributing to the programs. Your budget concerns as far as coaches and the stuff that goes along with that are really well taken. But we're of the opinion that
It's worthwhile.
what's best for kids is what's best for kids. And so we're going to go by whatever your recommendation is and feel very good about the outcome.
Okay. Well, we appreciate that, and we will table that and during the schools and athletic budget presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, with that, we'll move forward with the consideration of middle school project. Mr. Mike Chatterton, business manager.
Okay, I have the proposed budget that I sent out earlier today, or actually I sent it out last week, for the middle school project. And the two projects that we're looking at completing right now at the middle school would be to complete the energy recovery ventilators on the 7th and 8th grade wings. We completed the 6th grade last year, and this would be to improve the indoor air quality in both of those wings. And as well to install a VFD drive on heat pump loops that are in the existing systems right now. And the VFDs has got a pretty high payback period as far as utility costs are concerned. This is a budget item of about $79,000, but the payback in utility savings is anywhere from about 4 years to 4.3 years. And then every year after that is a huge savings. And I sent, with the report, I sent two information reports from Brian Formusa, our engineer. One was to document the projected amount of energy savings on the VFD drives installed in the middle school, and then the other one was the actual budget that was projected to complete the ERVs, the energy recovery ventilator units in the 7th and 8th grade wings. So if you have any questions, Brian is here. He'd be more than happy to answer questions as well.
As I look through the detailed VFD retrofit costs, I appreciate the breakdown. I didn't notice, however, any Idaho Power potential rebates. I know that they offer a $60 rebate per horsepower, and at 60 horse times 2, that's $7,200. Okay.
It did get in there.
Okay.
But yeah, you get $2,400. What did I say, Mike? $2,400 for sure. But I have the forms.
Okay.
And as I mentioned to Mike, in the course of doing the project, I'll fill the forms out. I have a personal relationship with the gal there, Cherie.
Okay, excellent. Now, is that just for the installation of the drives, or is there any for the controls and the valves as well?
We were going to originally redo all the controls, but I found a way of actually avoiding that whole cost of redoing all the controls. So we maintain the existing control system.
Okay.
I don't know, tens of thousands of dollars doing it that way.
Excellent.
So there's no benefit there. We're just going to get a benefit for the VFDs, for the freak drives.
Okay.
From Idaho Power. That's all they'll offer on this project.
Okay, excellent. That'll even cut that return on investment down.
If I hadn't, that's free money.
That is. All right. Is there anything else from the board?
I just have a question. So we've got the project totaling $383. What was the budget that we put out for that?
The original budget the original budget, none of this work was included in the original budget in the plant facility levy. But how we're going to cover this budget is there was some money that was set aside in the plant facility for the installation of these VFD drives. That budget was about $76,000. We also had a budget that for some waste management systems to install there. That was about $69,000. And then there was also some funds set aside for a solar project at the middle school of about $234,000, almost $235,000, that we're going to combine those funds to fund this project. And the total of those funds was about $380,000.
That matches up pretty well.
Yeah.
All right. Do I hear a motion then to approve the budget for the middle school ERVs and VFDs for a total cost of $383,100?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Project approved. Move on. I believe you're still up with the consideration of Conrad Brothers budget for Woodside Elementary School.
Okay, this is also a project that we've been working on for probably 2 months now. This is going to be the center area of Woodside Elementary School that was used to be housed the Autism Spectrum Disorder program, the center area for all of our special education programs. With the transformation of the dual immersion magnet school, we needed 2 extra classrooms. And so this would be to remodel that center area of the ASD programs into 2 separate classrooms to house the dual immersion program next year. And I have Paul Conrad here and Jolie Ansari here, who are the builders and the architects. If we have any questions on the designs or the budgets or anything you would like to ask them, they're more than willing to provide whatever they can. But the budget number that was presented to them that I sent you this morning was the same budget number that was presented and given to us when we approved the project last month. The 300 and I know it was 188,000.
188, 18, or 185, 188.
185.88.
Yeah, it's the same amount. And the way the contract is written is it's a not to exceed contract, so it won't be any higher than that. But it's all on cost plus, so it would be the actual cost of the project plus the 7% that they've proposed. And anything that's not spent gets returned back to the district.
All right. Is there any questions for the board?
No, I feel like the last time we answered, the last meeting we answered.
All right. Then do I hear a motion to approve the budget as a not-to-exceed contract of $185,188 for the Woodside Elementary classroom remodel?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Project approved. Next will be the consideration of Cary Irrigation request for proposal for a 10-acre parcel by Mr. Howard Royal.
I know, it's like insane.
A few months ago, I came to the board and requested permission to go out for proposals to enhance the property south of Cary with an irrigation system. We received a couple written proposals back, and I believe you have those in your packet and the memo that I put forth. And Mike and I went through those proposals and vetted out what we thought was the best person to provide irrigation for that property.
All right. Is there any questions from the board?
No, I'm just looking.
It's in the, oh, you have them all. You want to look at mine?
It's
Yes.
difficult
in
when
your
you get used
packet.
to
You
the
can share.
Thank you.
electronic documents.
One of the persons providing the proposal actually has a piece of property adjacent to the property the district owns, and he already has an existing main line, existing pump. So all he has to do is bring a main line across the county roadway, and he's ready to go, basically. And he'll supply main line, pipe, and all of those items.
And so we're going to gain almost $2,200 from this, is that what I'm reading?
The proposals were such that we will gain the permanent main line underground on this proposal. And also at the end of the 5 years, he will give us the going rate for the rental of the ground. So it'll be, going rate right now is about $100 per acre per year, so that'd be $1,100 per year after the 5-year initial fee, because he has to pay for his infrastructure costs. So the net gain would be better with that proposal over time, and we gain a permanent main line underground.
The only difficult thing with it like that would be we gain the main line, but no way of supplying the main line. No
Right.
easement to do that.
Yeah, and
But no, there's a definite advantage to getting the main line
There are
underground.
easements, but they involve going through residential driveways to get to the canal. So if we did exercise our right to use that easement to go through there, there'd be a large cost involved in chewing through new driveways, and I didn't think politically that would probably be the best.
Chewing through or boring underneath, yes, I agree.
Yeah. So this is actually probably a better proposal than we probably could have hoped for, having somebody with an adjacent system already in place.
Agreed.
Great.
All right, do I hear the proposal then to award the irrigation rights to Mr. Dave Park according to his RFP, or according to his proposal, excuse me?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Proposal awarded to Mr. Dave Park.
Thank you.
All right. Now on to consideration of Blaine County School District Policy 425.6 and 408.3B.
Well, I thought I was going to have a policy to present to the board under new business regarding the FMLA Leave Act. However, in revisiting that policy, it's fairly expansive, so I'd like the opportunity to pull out pieces that I think would be better served in procedure and reduce the policy down in its size, not its scope. So I think we can get it down to about 2.5 pages as opposed to 6 or 7. Just makes it a lot more user-friendly for those that are looking at policy and so forth. So I'd like the opportunity to reconstruct that and then bring it back to the board at the next meeting.
All right. We will then move forward with the consideration of food service management contract award recommendation by Mr. Mike Cheddar.
Okay, this is another federal requirement that we have to do every 5 years. It would be to hire our food service management company, who's currently it's Chartwell's. Every 5 years, we're required to entertain proposals from other food service management companies and get competitive bids on pricing. And so we've done that. We did that last 2 months ago. We issued the request for qualifications. We received them, and we only received the one proposal from Chartwell's. I really wasn't anticipating any other one because I never had received any calls from the other 2 companies that I sent to that service in Idaho. One would be Sodexo, and the other one was Southwest Food Services. And so I did some calling around with other business managers across the state, and it was the same situation that they had. You know, there's just so many school districts that are sending out these requests for qualifications on food service providers. If they do not feel that they have a legitimate shot in changing, they're not even going to take the time in providing estimates or proposals for those companies. So, you know, if they see something in their request for proposal or something that gives them any kind of an indication that they are not, chances are they're not going to be successful, then they won't waste their time on doing that. And that's what happened in the other districts in Idaho as well. They both just received the proposals that they had through their existing contract companies. I went through the financial proposal that they were submitted. It's very similar to what it has been over the last 5 years. The contract allows for a 3% increase in the management fees a year, and the projected loss based on the financial information that we sent them on our projections on last year is pretty comparable to what it is this year. So, I mean, I think the projections of their loss next year in the food service program is a little over $247,000, and this year was a little over $245,000. So it's just a slight increase over last year. So I feel like it was very competitive. You know, they didn't realize that there was not going to be any other food service companies that were going to. So I'm sure that they approached this as if there was going to be competition, as to not anytime you go through any of these proposals or any type of these requests for qualifications or anything, if you ever submit a proposal that appears to be high, it's going to damage the relationship that you have with the existing school district already. And none of these companies ever want to put that existing relationship that they have involved with these school districts in jeopardy in any way. So I really do feel like it was a fair and honest proposal that they submitted to us. And if you have any questions, John Wappen is here as well as Dwayne.
Open it up to the board for any questions.
My question is, this is a 5-year contract? Is that what I'm hearing?
It is a 5-year contract. It's renewable every year.
What does that mean?
It's renewable. I mean, any time the district wants out of this contract, they just have to serve notice to Chartwells, and I think it's a 30-day notice to Chartwells saying we want to eliminate the relationship. It's a 5-year renewable contract, but we have a 30-day escape clause anytime we want to.
And I'm not saying we would do this. I'm a little bit confused. So it's every year that we would be able to sever it, or every 30 days?
At any time.
We can sever it at any time given the 30 days notice.
30 days
I
notice.
see. Okay, that's right. And I think that this is something that I don't feel that I understand enough at this point. It's been simmering in the background for a long time. And so I really, with everything else that we've had going on, I want to make sure that I'm not closing doors to other things that might be requested from the next superintendent, from the public. So I want to make sure that we've got that flexibility, and it sounds like we do.
And Chartwells is a very big, large corporation. I mean, any type of a change we want to incorporate in our own food service program, they're more than happy to help us incorporate those changes. I mean, if it was all organic, they'd be willing to make those changes with us. I mean, whatever we want to do, that's what they're there for. I mean, we run the program for the school district. We are their customers. So whatever we want, they will implement for us.
They're going to provide whatever we ask for. Basically, we just need to make sure we're willing to pay for what we ask for.
Would it be accurate to say that the benefit of having the 5-year contract is just so that we don't have to go out for bid every year and go through this process? And as long as the relationship is happy and healthy and beneficial, it gives us that window of time to not have to go through this process again, but the 30 days allows us to change at any moment should something happen like what Liz was talking about. Would that be accurate?
Yes. I mean, it's a very complicated request for qualifications, probably the most complicated one that I ever do every 5 years. And I probably have 20 hours in this, as well as attorneys reviewing it to make sure it's legal. So it is very time consuming, and that's why they do that for every 5 years, is because of the process.
Okay. One other comment. You have it stated here, the projected loss in next year's budget. Would it be accurate to say that in a different way would be that we supplement we supplement the food budget by that $247,000?
The general fund supplements the food service program by $247,000.
Yeah. So it's not a loss, it's just that we're paying an additional money to enrich the food offerings that we give our students using about $250,000 each year. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, then, if there's no further discussion, do I hear a motion to approve the food service management contract award to Chartwells?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Contract awarded to Chartwells. And
Thank you,
with that-
Dwayne and John.
Thank you very much. With that, we'll move forward to
Thanks, John.
the Blaine County School District Policy Number 602.1, the Student Wellness Policy.
Yep, it's ready for your approval. So this went from a subcommittee, the wellness committee, to the policy committee, back to the wellness committee, back to the policy committee.
Back to the wellness committee, back to the policy committee.
So, with all members involved, I think as you look through this, you'll see that it's fairly comprehensive in student health. So it's not nutrition. It also deals with a lot of things that are in our curriculum, such as the physical education goals, as well as the mental health and safety of children. So it's all inclusive of not only food, but also activity, also social and emotional wellness. It includes all those things. And I think the most significant piece of this policy is the wellness committee development. So it calls to it calls for a wellness committee, and it gives you that who should be serving on that committee. And the wellness committee shall serve as an advisory committee, providing guidance to the board regarding student health issues and possible revisions, improvements, and monitoring and implementation of this wellness policy. Due to that, it will need to be publicly noticed since it is an advisory committee. There are people that are already asking about that committee and whether they could serve on that. So there's some people ready to rock and roll and helping us with that, but it gives the, like I said, a lot of responsibility on that committee, such as the implementation and revisions and so forth, the responsibility of that committee. And then, of course, it gives you the makeup of that committee there. Who should sit on that? It's ready for approval. Usually we give you these policies well in advance, at least a month in advance, so that you can review them and see if there's any issues that you can bring back to me. It also gives me a chance to let the association see those policies as well. And then hopefully it's ready for approval next board meeting.
My only comment is about this wellness committee. It's my understanding that we're required to develop a wellness committee from the federal guidelines.
That's correct.
And do we need to say that we need to develop it, or can we just have that at the end?
It's on there. We're going to develop it. It's on the.
Right, I know, I see that it's
Right.
here, but I was looking through the other part. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
As soon as this policy is adopted, that committee will be.
Well, we don't have to state that we just have to have it.
Policy
that
states
we're
that you will
required.
have it.
Right. That's what
So you will have a committee as per policy.
Basically, as we approve the policy, that gives permission to form the committee and to begin with that.
Question?
Do you have anything in process right now for how this wellness committee will be developed and started?
Well, there's student members on there, and of course, like a school nurse, district employees that are kind of a given. We usually ask for volunteers on our policy committees, any committees, and we'll vet that based on their, I know I have at least one doctor that would like to be on there, and some nutritional people. So a lot of times, the community members are the ones that you vet, and but it'll be based on a voluntary basis. So we'll put that out there, ask for volunteers for the committee, and they'll fill out volunteer forms, and we'll go through those and vet those.
In the event that we were to approve this next month, when do you see starting that committee process and having it the first meeting? Do you have a timeline?
We start vetting that next month, and I'd like to see that put together. So if you're looking
Open
at,
it up for 30 days.
In April,
Mm-hmm.
and we would like to see that by the end of April, having that committee in place.
Okay.
Yeah, just, this is a little off this particular topic, but speaking of committees, the Financial Accountability Committee, what is the timeline for that at this point? Do we?
I don't have one for you.
Okay.
That's up
We
to
need
the
to-
board. We have asked people or the public to come to the budget meetings, but we have not set a date for the formation of that committee, and that is board driven.
Okay,
I mean, anybody could apply to it at any time.
right, but if we don't have a start date.
Did I miss being asked?
No,
No.
but maybe we should.
Yeah.
Maybe we should.
Well, I think when we originally discussed it, we were waiting for the budget process to be through, and then once we had something that we wanted to task that committee with, we would that would be when it would begin.
So I would just like to throw out, just because I think that maybe it would be beneficial to have this committee be attending these meetings, and we might be a little bit too late now, but maybe not, versus having to go back and review and catch up, because this is really meaty, what we're doing.
It is, which is why we also ask those who are
interested
who
to
are
attend.
interested in being a part of that committee to come and be informed.
Right.
Get educated and find out if it's something they're interested in.
Right.
And being a part of that process.
Right. Or the other way to think about it is if you task the committee, I mean, if you create the committee and then they start to come, and it gets that ball rolling during a really critical time. So I just, I know that we're veering off a little bit here, but I feel like talking about the wellness and the timeline there, and that's going forward, and I think that's great. So I'm just wondering what the protocol for that. What do we think about that in terms of kicking that off and getting some dates on it? I don't think it should be too hard.
I think we followed the same date process, even if we started now. By the time it was formed, it would be after the budget meetings were over. That's why I think when we put that out there, we requested that people who were interested attend those because of the timeline of it, because those budget meetings were coming immediately, and we have a budget meeting next week. We have one April 1st, and then there's only 2 more left. Tomorrow.
So
tomorrow next week, April 1st, and then there's just 1 more.
Right. So John, how many? What was the time frame that you decided for the wellness committee?
30 days.
Would be appropriate from the minute that you took the applications to their first meeting?
I think you open it up for similar to what we did for the trustee. You open it up for a 30-day application process, and then once that's closed, then you vet.
Then you have to vet and appoint. So it'd be.
I think that would be great because that's been kind of out there to get that going and put a timeline on it.
I would agree. I would just caution and remember that in April, which is 30 days from now, we're going to be extremely busy with superintendent hiring. So I would
our
prefer
schedule
to postpone that until after the end of April. So have that period open in April, that would be fine, but have the appointment to that the Financial Advisory Committee until after April into May, to where we can
So that's great.
Take care
so
of
let's
priorities
get that
first.
going. I mean, April will be here soon.
Well, and I think one reason why there's a distinction between the Wellness Committee and the FAC is that we appoint the people because it's a board advisory committee. And so it's going to take our time and energy in vetting and talking to people and making those appointments.
Instead of staff.
Instead of staff. It's not something we can task. So, anytime earlier than May would probably be unreasonable to even think about.
I don't think there's any problem in April.
We open it up.
We open it up.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that.
Open that up to the community that wants to be on the wellness committee, submit your application. Community that wants to be on the financial advisory committee, submit your application.
You start garnering.
Gardening,
Exactly. So
Garnering
just
the
go out in
applications.
the same, the same article, the same.
Nope. Press releases.
Notice on the website.
And the reason I think that this is something to think about is I think that there's been talk about this, and people are looking at it, and then what's happening with it. So I think that really helps to make sure that it doesn't seem like it's being forgotten.
Granted, it has not been pushed under the rug. We haven't tried to do that. We just have understood we have certain priorities that we know we need to deal with right now.
Sure.
And we're trying to deal with those priorities as far as getting another trustee to complete our board, as well as hiring the superintendent, which is the most important job we do.
Sure. So is there any, are we tasking John with anybody?
Yeah, when the wellness
committee policy.
should it be processed? Yeah.
Was out looking for members.
So you're tasking me to post.
Yes, we're tasking you to post
The volunteer
Yeah.
application process for the FAC in April.
Correct.
As well as
Yes,
correct.
Yes. Well, the Wellness Committee, not yet, because this has not been approved.
Granted.
But anticipation of doing it for the Wellness Committee at the same time.
All right, that concludes our agenda items with the exception of public comment regarding tonight's agenda. I will open that up. Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion.
This is a record
or meeting
setter, I think.
adjourned.
No, our last one